Welcome back to JB Reviews. As you guys know, the new Cummins has hit Utah, and I have the one and only over here. Look who it is, Truck Stuff.
Yes, sir.
Now he has blessed us with a 2025 Ram Cummins in the shop. This is probably the first one to be on a lift, and we're going to pretty much break it down, dissect it, and Josh is going to tell you how much he loves glow plugs here in a second, so we'll discuss. I have to mess with him a little bit because he hates glow plugs. I personally like glow plugs. My GMC has the ceramic ones, and they've been working great for me.
So glow plugs in their purest form are way better than a grid heater. We're not going to dispute that. The grid heater sucks. There's way better designs out there. Stellantis' view on glow plugs are an epic failure. We go back to the earlier generations of the EcoDiesel where they would just snap off in the head, and now you got to replace the head. Or buy the $3,000 tool so you can try and get those out with limited success. On the newer EcoDiesels, they come out nice and easy. I hope they went along that line and made it to where they actually come out without breaking off, but time will tell.
Yeah. Now, and the good news is, see, with the new Cummins, something I was like a little bummed by this. When I saw the horsepower and torque numbers, I was a little bummed. I said, you know, why would they not even try to compete with at least GM? I mean, because GM is at 475 horsepower.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, 470 horsepower. Ford's at 475 with a standard output. Their high output's at 500.
Yeah. Are their gear ratios the same?
Actually, so Ford's is actually 331, but they have an optional 355.
Okay, well, we're only talking about a very, very small, a tenth and a half of gear ratio difference.
That's true.
But, you know, both of them have a 10-speed that has been an epic failure. We've got a Powerline 8-speed that has proven itself all the way from the 1500s, the Wranglers, the SRTs, the Demons, the Hellcats, the Red Eyes, all of those. The ZF transmission line has proven itself over and over and over again that it can handle power. Now, not only can it handle power, but it's lighter than an Eisen. Yes, it's heavier than a 68 RFE, but the RFE, well, we all know what that thing is, right? Big old pile of doo-doo. But the ZF power line in here, or torque flight, it's a superior combination. I like it. I love it. Now, for all of those that want to complain about no dipstick, too bad. That's the way the industry's going. You're not going to find dipsticks on a lot of engines coming up. So
I'm willing to bet you 20% of the guys actually check their transmission fluid anyways. 20%.
Especially when they tell you it's a fill for life.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I haven't logged on to ZF's website yet to see what this new one's interval was, but on the 8HP 70s, 75s, 90, 95s, all of them, ZF recommends 60,000 mile intervals. Now, this leads up to another thing that we're going to do a totally separate video on my truck, where I have changed my pan to a Wrangler steel pan with a changeable filter. Costs $35 for a filter versus $386 for a whole entire oil pan. We'll get into another video on that, but this ZF, I love it.
Let's go ahead and step up here. Now, the first thing that, as I said earlier, 430 horsepower, 1,075 pound-feet of torque. Here's my theory. I think because Ram just got this new transmission, they're taking it easy for the first few model years because they want to get that reliability back under their belt.
Yeah, so you've seen this throughout history where auto manufacturers try and up one another year after year after year after year. Now, with the new combination, they probably tuned it down a little bit so that next year, year after, they can come back, crank the power up and say, we got you guys, Ford, Duramax, you guys can try and play catch up now with your existing power combinations. They're going to have to do a whole rework. As far as I've understood, Ford and Duramax are at their power limit from the manufacturer. Not on the aftermarket side, but from the manufacturer. So maybe they're going to have to come out with a whole new different combination.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense too. So I think that's one good thing to take away from this new Cummins. Now you get it in the 2500, 3500, high output, and you have the biggest and baddest transmission behind it. Like you said, GM is having a world of problems right now with their torque converters and other things with their 10-speed. Ford is not as bad. I think from all my friends who have Ford trucks, they say that they're not as bad, but they do get a little bit clunky over course of time.
Oh, they get a shutter.
They get, yeah,
they get a torque converter shutter out.
Yes, yes.
Same as the GM, and if I'm not mistaken, GM's in the middle of a class action lawsuit.
Yes.
So
yeah. I mean, I'm scared of mine right now. I'll be honest. Like, that's why, even though there's no delete, if there was a delete right now, I would hold off because of the transmission. I'm too afraid because I'm still in the warranty.
Well, yeah, you don't want to take away your powertrain, then if you have to spend out of pocket $18,000 for a transmission or more, depending, you know.
Yeah, my wife would kill me if she found out. Yeah, you did all this work to your truck only to have a exploded transmission. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as serviceability goes, what would you say? Is this a lot easier compared to the previous one?
It's easier as far as all your filters are located on the top of the engine.
Yeah. There's one right there. Which one is that?
That's oil filter.
Oil filter's right there.
We've gone to a canister style oil filter. I'm hoping that with that canister style oil filter that they've been able to decrease the micron size.
Okay.
Decrease, make it smaller.
Okay.
So filters a smaller micron rating than the older ones. Fuel filters, both of them are mounted on the side of the engine now, and again,
it's right over here.
Yeah, they're both right there.
Okay.
I'm hoping that they've been able to finally meet the Bosch standard of 2 microns. You know, you hear everybody with the fast fuel systems and stuff like that, they're filtering down to at least 2 microns. Cummins and Dodge have historically not gone by that Bosch standard, and especially back on the 3rd gens, you had injectors going out at 135,000 miles, almost set a clock to it. And it was because they weren't filtering down. I think the filters on those were only a 15 micron, and Bosch was going, you need to get it down to 2. So
that's great. And how much is a fuel system on this truck if you need to do injectors and rails and...
Well, the 6th gen, I have no idea, but on a 5th gen, I've got 2 of them outside that need to be totally redone, from lift pump all the way to the injectors, and parts alone were $13,000.
Oh my gosh. So why wouldn't you spend the time and the money to just switch out those filters a little bit sooner?
Well, yeah.
Especially after warranty.
You know, and that's why companies like FAST have been so successful, is because they're providing an insurance for that fuel system. Not only do they filter down, but they also polish the fuel. And for those of you who don't know what polishing is when the fuel is constantly being pumped through the filters and returned back to the tank. So there's a check valve in there that sends fuel to the engine as the engine demands for more fuel. Well, the rest of that 150 gallon per hour pump or higher, depending on which system you buy, returns back to the tank and it polishes it. Now, not only does that enable for a cleaner fuel to get supplied to the engine, it provides an oxygen-free environment for the fuel system. It takes away all of the oxygen that can aerate through from the lift pump. So that's again a whole other story.
Nice. That's good stuff, man. See, these are things I would never. I can't even look this stuff up. I mean, that's the type of stuff that you need to hear online.
Well, and that's where a lot of, you know, you talk to a lot of guys who have been at a dealership for their entire career and never spent time in the aftermarket. They don't know about it either.
Oh,
you
true.
know, it's only when, you know, I came from aftermarket to a dealership, so I was installing fast systems back in the early 2000s.
Gotcha.
And you know, back then it was fast and AirDog, and AirDog seemed to jump off the train and hit a wall. But fast, you know, they've kept up with the engineering and the new vehicles so that they can still provide an adequate fuel system for your power demands and your vehicle.
Nice. Nice. No, that's good. So just really quickly too, as far as the CCV goes, that's still 75,000 miles.
It is, but again, you know, driving characteristics are going to dictate.
Yep.
It's a timed interval that you'll end up with a perform service light on the dash when it's time to change your CCV. Well, now let's say you got your horse trailer or your snowmobiles in the wintertime and your side-by-sides in the summertime. You know, the truck spends 60% of its time with the trailer attached to it. you're probably going to want to up that interval. You're probably going to want to drop it down to 50,000 miles to change the CCV. The other bonus when you come to our dealership is not only do you get the CCV changed, but we also remove the EGR cooler and we clean that. We've discussed that in several of my videos on my channel, the perform service. You know, there's a lot more than just changing a CCV filter when that perform service light comes on or that service is due. A lot more things need to be taken into account. A lot of dealerships will only change out that filter. We go one step further and we remove the cooler and clean that. Now we go back to 4th gens, we'll also remove the EGR valve and we'll clean the EGR valve. We can't chemically clean the EGR valve on a 5th gen. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to on this one either. But the CCV filter is not only a timed, but depending on your usage, probably need to step that up a little bit.
Nice. That's good stuff. Well, hey man, thank you so much for giving us the time to check this out. We're going to end it here. I think what we'll do is, in the next video, we'll have to lift it up, show you guys underneath, and then eventually we'll have to check out the old Cummins with the new Cummins here, put them on the lift, and see what you guys see, because hey, there are some differences on these trucks. Obviously on the top you can clearly see, now they have glow plugs. The CCV filter looks to be a little bit easier to get to. There is a sensor missing on the intake, by the way, I noticed. And
so that looks like it's just going to be an intake air temperature sensor.
Right here?
Right.
Okay.
It looks like they might have done something different with the programming for the mass airflow.
Ah, I see. Yeah, and then like I said, as far as the EGR goes, that's completely done. We also have new intake manifold on this side.
Hopefully you guys will be able to see it a little bit better.
Yeah. So the intake manifold is that big aluminum thing that the fuel rail is attached to. What that's going to enable us to do is, on the aftermarket side, we're going to be able to change out that plenum and really gain some massive power increases just by replacing that intake manifold.
Wow.
And then of course if you decide to go through a weight loss program and get rid of this. But yeah.
I can't wait to see what they do with that. I know that's coming
soon
this year.
I can't wait until I get my hands on one or two.
Oh, dude, yes.
So we'll talk about really quick with the elimination of the mass airflow sensor from the air cleaner housing. This is what the mass airflow sensor on a 6th gen looks like.
Okay.
You see that little piece right here as the air passes over it, and with temperature and barometric pressure, they're able to use an algorithm to dictate how much oxygen is actually coming into the engine. Algorithms.
Which I hate that. I like to just give me the actual temperature. Don't use algorithms. Just give me the actual temperature. So I like that better. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Hope it was helpful. If you haven't done so yet, you got to check out Truck Stuff. This is Josh. He has a video just like this one, but he went in a different direction than I did. So you want to check out his content for sure. And as I said, we're going to be driving these trucks. We're going to be comparing the old Cummins with the new Cummins. You don't want to miss it. See you guys soon.
Later.